Good morning. Hello, I'm so happy to have you all here with us. My name is Hila Oren from Tel Aviv Foundation. I see lots of friends from Israel, but I see lots of new faces, so I'm very happy with that. Before we start, I'd like to introduce you to my panelists and hope we're going to have fun because we're going to talk about a very... Do you hear me, by the way? Yes. Okay. We're going to talk about a very important issue. Since we're talking about smart cities, the challenges are getting bigger. The budget is not getting bigger, so we have to be creative and smart about the solutions. And this is what we're going to talk with my friends here. I would like to introduce you to Mr. Arvind Satyam from Cisco, and he's going to break the news in just a couple of minutes. We're going to introduce Ms. Leonor Berriochoa, which is from Luxembourg, but actually from Spain, and she works with European Investment Bank. I would love to introduce Mr. Rodolfo from Bogota, and he's going to talk about Findeter. And last but never the least, Elena Bourganskaia from IFC, and she's located in Washington, and she's going to tell us about beautiful things she's doing with cities all over, and maybe a special example from Izmir. But before we are jumping into that, I'd like to take you to a very small tour into Tel Aviv and the global cities that we know that Saskia and Sassen referred to that. Tel Aviv really wanted to be one of those 20 cities to lead the world. How are we doing it? We identified our USP, our unique selling point. What is our DNA of the city? And we understand that the Tel Aviv as a city that was just 100 years ago, dunes of sands, just in that place, if you are coming now to Tel Aviv, you're going to find Rothschild Boulevard in the heart of the ecosystem, where just not far away from there is Old Jaffa, the 5th most ancient port of the city's world. We have the White City declared by UNESCO. 1/3 of our residents are wild and free between the ages of 18 and 35. The New York Times referred to us as the Mediterranean capital of cool. We have a beautiful beach, and this is how we are using it all together. We are the gateway to Israel, and the creative class really feels comfortable around that. This is because we nurture three things, three T's. The talent, this is how the escalator to the city hall looks. Technology, we believe that Wi-Fi should be everybody's entitled. My mayor always says, just like we're getting electricity to our bulbs and water to our taps, we should get free Wi-Fi so the knowledge is everywhere. And this is something I would like to refer for a minute, because the place that you would get the highest rated for Wi-Fi in the city is in the south neighborhood, where all the illegal immigrants. Now you would ask yourself, why is that so important for a smart city? Only through knowledge and education you can take the next step, and this is why it's so important for us. And of course, tolerance. So these three T's by Professor Richard Florida really supports the culture center and the business center. And we have now 1,500 startups in the city, which is more per capita than any other city in the world. And it does, coming to talk about financial tools, it does support the Tel Aviv's development budget, and you can see that through the years. And this is how we actually cracked the innovation code. We put the Wi-Fi all over, the startup visa, we reduced city taxes. We did lots of things, but at the end of the day, and here is how we're coming to the issue of this panel. It's all about city making. I'm not a shoemaker and I'm not a filmmaker, but I am a city maker. It's a new profession that is, we are all, whoever is sitting here, we're all part of this new movement. And city makers are people that are taking off red tapes in the municipalities and finding new solutions for lots of things. Part of it are the financial tools. And how are we doing that? There's so many different ways. I'm not going to talk about today sharing economy, but it is part of making the new financial tools for cities. Unfortunately, I'm not going to talk about my passion, which is the city coin. But in Tel Aviv, we're already having a city coin, a digital money. Look that up. Tokyo, in the next Olympics, is going to have a specific digital coin for Tokyo. Look what it's going to do to that city. Another financial tool. Public-private partnerships. We're not always looking for donors to bring us money. A new theater is built in Tel Aviv by the investor, by the entrepreneur. It's actually, we gave him that public challenge. Crowdfunding, London, anybody here from the City of London, they're really leading on this, and they're doing beautiful projects all over with crowdfunding. I think this is something not only for little specific projects like food or music, it can also help us, and London already does that, and Tel Aviv is exploring it. The digital resident card, this is something, wow, you can hear about it, and Zohar Sharon is here, so you can ask him later on, but go to the Tel Aviv booth, they'll tell you all about digital card. Social finance, we were talking about before, for social things, and of course, at the end of the day, you should have a vehicle for yourself. For us in Tel Aviv, it's the Tel Aviv Foundation. This foundation was founded 40 years ago when we needed every dollar. But now, when you can get money from different ways and new ways, you need that vehicle to match dollar for dollar from the municipality. And after 40 years, we got that establishment because, you know, when the people here on the stage will talk, I heard from some of my friends, you need a partner. And if your mayor is a long-time mayor, he's got that establishment, he's got that commitment, he's a leader that can take decisions and say, okay, I'm going into new areas, I'm going into new things that I can do. And this is exactly what my mayor does with our global partners all over, from Canada, Germany, United Kingdom, United States, and Australia. So this was just a very, very, very short glimpse of Tel Aviv, and to open a very wide talk about new financial tools. I promised my colleagues that we'll give 5 to 6 minutes, each of us, on the topic, and then later on we'll open it to questions from the audience. So please think already while we're talking what you'd like to ask us, and refer to this place as a saloon that can really be an open talk in this 60 minutes. So Arvind, you take the stage, please, and share with us what you're doing in Cisco, but most important, the new news that you have for all of us.
Great. Well, thank you, Hila. Tel Aviv is a beautiful town. I've been there multiple times. So first of all, good morning. How are you? So let me wait for the slides to come up. So, you know, you talked about smart cities and what's key to enable this. We're a technology company, and the first thing that we'd say is it's not about the technology. So when we look at a smart city, it's about really making an impact. It's about what is the quality of life improvements that we're providing to citizens. How are we more efficiently managing physical infrastructure? And we've been part of this journey for a while. And so we've seen the industry mature. And one of the key things that we look at as we look at the industry going from small deployments to larger deployments to really accelerating this is addressing the financing gap that exists. And so that's really the focus of this. I want to give you a perspective of how we're approaching this. And just yesterday, we released a $1 billion financing package with private equity investors to get started. Wow. So, $1 billion, a lot of money. So the first thing that I wanted to get started with is a little bit of fun. Who's been to a public-private partnership party? They don't really exist, and most people would tell you that they're quite challenging to do. And the reason why I like this caption is, you know, in many scenarios, you have the public sector and the private sector both have an appetite to make this work, but it's challenging, right? It's challenging to get the shared objectives, to really structure these deals. Now, my panel has assured me that they certainly know how to party, and they do want to get into this dance. So what we want to talk to you about is, you know, how do we actually take some of these impediments away and get these PPP models active in the smart city space? Public-private partnerships and just private finance for physical infrastructure has been around for over 100 years, even much longer than that. So that's how traditional infrastructure, whether that be toll roads, bridges, airports, have been financed. Whereas a new type of infrastructure in cities today is the infrastructure that's enabled through technology, whether that be lighting with sensors and smart nodes, whether that be parking or even urban services, or even services that are addressing some of the social impact areas. So the key is, how do we bring that private capital and different models to enable these smart technology in cities? One of the key challenges that we've observed is when you look at getting these benefits and you look at getting the ROI from deploying this technology, one of the challenges is cities operate in silos. And I think many of us that have been in cities understand this. But in order to truly get the impact of technology and how it's going to enable multiple services and multiple solutions, you've got to think about this as a horizontal as opposed to a siloed solution. So I would say, in order for this industry to take off, we do need to address this. And this is a leadership and an operational challenge. But cities that are actually embracing this, that want to do this as a holistic thing, will actually enable better projects. And the key thing that financiers look for is, how do I get a better ROI? And is this an investable project? Much like would you invest in a bank loan for a given criteria, we need to think about how do we create projects that are investable in a smart city context. So this has to be addressed, and cities need to look at this as a holistic manner. Our approach to this, and by no means is this a Cisco sales pitch, what we try and do is we try and address the key priorities in cities. And most cities that you look at, some of the key challenges that they deal with are, how do I improve traffic? How do I improve lighting? How do I improve parking? And how do I provide a better air quality? And if you look at this as a solution that ties together multiple elements, an investment that you make in technology, whether that be a camera, whether that be a Wi-Fi network, can now be used across multiple capabilities. And the way we address this is we have a Cisco Kinetic for Cities platform that really enables an ecosystem of companies. So cities have a choice, as well as urban service providers. So that's really our approach to this. And from a ROI standpoint, and the industry, the industry's been around for the past 7 years now. I've been coming to this event for the past 5 years since it started. 5 years ago, the question is the technology mature? Today, I think that's not the question that we hear. The questions are, how do we operationally go deploy this, and how do we scale this? So some of the savings that we've seen around lighting as you go from halogen to LED and smart lighting is a potential 70 to 80% saving, which is something that financiers look at as an investable project. The barriers to entry in lighting are also high. There are 10, 15, 20-year concessions, which is different from an app which can be recreated. So I would also say that's another key learning for us, which is, what are the projects in cities that will actually exist so that financiers, pension funds, and others can actually deploy capital and they can get a return and they know it's going to stay there. Other areas which are interesting, so carbon emissions, there are many environmental benefits. So this isn't just about the economic side, there's a quality of life and social benefits that come out of it. Parking, in US cities, parking is often the #2 revenue generator for cities. So if lighting saves money, parking drives additional revenue. Waste management is another area where you can optimize the cost and you can reinvest. And then lastly, there's a number of other services that we look at. We're also seeing innovative business models around Wi-Fi, connectivity, and kiosks and those elements. So with that as the backdrop, what I wanted to share with you today is the announcement that we put out yesterday. So we've been working with a number of cities, and we've been working with private investors. And with that, we realized that it's not just one fund or it's not just one structure. We need to create a program that really brings together a combination. And it's a combination of debt as well as equity. It's $1 billion of total capital. It's money that we're putting in through our own balance sheet, through Cisco Capital Finance and other things, as well as working with 3 private equity investors that are focused on investing in technology-enabled infrastructure. And what's interesting with these investors is Whitehelm and APG are both pension fund investors. So if you can deploy pension fund capital, that's a good thing. You're actually taking money that's long-term investments and you're investing in accelerating technology, as well as improving cities, local cities. Where you can leverage this, so this could be about project finance. We as a technology company don't historically finance lighting networks, parking networks, or combination of these. We look at our particular capability. This allows us to bring partners to look at the overall piece. We're also looking at equity investments in specific areas. So one example I want to leave you with is a investment that we did in Hull with with a company called Connexin, and we actually deployed 10 million pounds of investment through Digital Alpha. This company actually goes to municipalities with as a service. So they go to the municipality and say, Mr. Mayor, we can actually offer you the network, the solution, as well as parking as a service or lighting as a service. So, and we're actually seeing that these type of models are going to pop up in the future. So that's a quick perspective of where we are, and we're really excited about this. And we really look at this as something that will be successful with working with municipalities, financiers, as well as our ecosystem.
Thank you, Arvind, for those words. Once you were coming here, I'd first of all like to share, the last 5 years we've been here probably together, but we were not aware, but I do want to thank so much the Barcelona FIRA and the World Smart, I'm looking for the World Smart Expo, Smart City World, exactly, sorry, for Pilar, for Ugo and Sergio for bringing us here time after time to share all these ideas together. By the way, this is the first time we're 3 women on the stage, and this is something for Smart City, an issue that makes better the decisions that come at the end. So I do like this idea, exactly, and let's applaud for that for all the women in the audience. I saw on your presentation that you're having a party and that you love parties, and I think we can't have a better place for a party than Tel Aviv, so I'm inviting you to have the Cisco party on September with all the audience here with us to take the first stage of the $1 billion.
I'm ready.
Okay, with a focus on not only lightning and infrastructure and what you said, but a little bit also about education and social needs and the soft values that are needed so much for cities and for the city's residents. And I'd like to take it from there to Leonor, our second panelist, to share with us your presentation.
Buenos días. Good morning. I will do my presentation in English. My name is Leonor. I'm from Madrid, but I'm working currently in Luxembourg in the European Investment Bank. I don't have a lot of time, but I have organized my presentation in a way that you have all the web links to additional information, because we are all very smart here, but we get lost with so many data and information. So I made sure that all the data is there. Very briefly, for those who are not very familiarized about who is the EIB, we are a European institution. We are based in Luxembourg. In the picture, it looks very sunny, but it's always raining. But anyway, here we are financing projects across the world, but mainly in Europe. Our priorities are really in line with those from the European Union. And we are supporting not only smart cities, but everything that is climate change, infrastructure, energy, migration, regional development. So in the end, everything is more or less converging to financing cities, supporting cities across mainly Europe. So I'm not going to take any time on this, but as we are a bank, this is really for you to see that we finance projects, long-term financing that goes from 15 to 40 years, depending on the life of the asset. But we do also advising, which is something that is really now needed. To focus on my presentation, I always use this postcard that I didn't bring here, but it's for you to see that also for the EIB, a smart city is not something where you put all the technology in a city, but we believe really that this has to be grounded in an integrated planning framework. And this is really what we try to understand when we appraise a project with a city. We really tailor our investment, our financial solution to the city, and not only to big cities, because we have seen many solutions for big cities, but we really also are supporting small municipalities across Europe through maybe another intermediated banks. to implement their smart city solutions that might not be the same as the ones that are needed in other cities. So here you have a web link that opens to a whole blog about the smart city projects in Europe, and you have additional information about that. For the EIB, as I have mentioned, what we do when we appraise a project is to make sure that this smart approach is really the one that fits the city, because first of all, you have many ways you have many visions, and then it depends on what is really what you want to strengthen, that in the end everything goes and everything helps to make the city more sustainable, and then you can really strengthen technology, human capital, and innovation as a smart city, but also is very important, resilient cities who are really putting the emphasis more in being reactive and adapt to migration and climate. Other cities, they want to become inclusive, which really the emphasis is more on equality of opportunities and inclusion. And other cities, they want to be labeled as green cities because the emphasis is more on environment and protected areas and green infrastructure. For us, for the EIB, these are 4 different ways to really become sustainable. And this sustainable city, together with this integrated approach, which is really having all the investments seen in a horizontal way and not in silos, plus being inclusive, being participated, being collaborative with all the citizens, plus using, of course, the technology as part of all the available resources. This is really what makes a city smart for us. And smart cities for us are important because they are the ones that are really very well prepared in order for us to make to produce good projects there. Because I mean, in the end, finance is really to bring this money from the future into the present. And if the city is really investing well, setting priorities, then it will regenerate the city, it will bring businesses, it will generate taxes, and then they can really repay these investments that are going to be done in the present without committing really the resources from the future. So all this smart city concept, I'm not going to read it now, but you have the link again in the bottom of the page for you to access to this flyer that we have produced with all this information about what the EIB is really financing in smart cities. We label some of our projects as smart cities, which some people do, but for us, again, it's not only to be smart, it's not only to have the technology, but it's to be together with these sustainable investments. And then we set the criteria depending on the city, and then we label a project smart depending on whether the investments are more or less 30% smart. But you can also have in your investment program rehabilitation of roads that continue being very important, and in Eastern Europe continues being the priority, but together with technology, you make it a bit more like smart. I have 2 minutes, so very briefly I will present you several examples that we have across Europe that cover different sectors. And in every sector, it can be energy, mobility, waste, buildings, social infrastructure. We look for this integrated approach, and we look for this transversal and cross-sectorial dimension that has to be in the investments. And they are covering all the sectors, including health, including mobility, energy. So we have several products. This can be found again in the EIB page, but the best way to explain this is to go through 4 different projects across Europe. We have this urban development project in France that it is an urban development project because we took the industrial former brownfields that were in both sides of the Seine River, and the city wanted to develop these eco-quartiers, as they call them, in Flaubert and Lucilline. And what they have done is really to propose an example of a smart city development, because it's really very well connected to transport, is really taking and using the best technologies to clean these brownfields. They are really mixing residential, commercial, and public space. They are really implementing near passive. Well, it was near passive at that time, now it's passive buildings. They are using geothermal energy in the heating network. So really, it's a really horizontal, comprehensive approach to urban development. And this is an investment program because it's a unique project. It's one project. But there are other cities as Krakow that have very many investments in different sectors, and they come to the EIB saying, look, I want to finance this and this and this and that. I also have problems with, I mean, in Krakow, they have a huge problem with emissions because of using coal mainly and as the source of energy. So they have many investments, and some of them are more smart than others, but in the end, you have a program that covers the whole investment budget of the municipality for the next 4 years. So the city also has a very good smart city strategy that is aiming at using technology to improve urban space. They are really implementing smart city solutions in public transport, street lighting, but they also have part of the budget that is being participated by the citizens. So the citizens really can set priorities as part of the priorities that are set by the government. We have a very good example.
We have to wrap up with the example.
Don't worry. We have a very good example on how to address small municipalities, and this is through intermediated banks. We don't have the capacity to go to small municipalities. However, intermediated banks, and we do it also in Spain through Santander, they really can get to small municipalities. And in small municipalities, the needs are different. And there you have a link with a video that will show how small municipalities are also implementing smart city solutions, mainly with care centers, with schools, and many other investments that are really getting closer to the citizens. And last but not least, this is a more complicated instrument that is a fund. This is another example of investments that can be done in the smart city world that is through equity. And this is where you have this fund that in this case is for Belgium and France. And again, it's about brownfield sites that are being redeveloped with the latest technology, integrated in an urban plan to really clean these sites, to develop, to proceed with real estate development, or to really leave it there for other people to invest. So different type of solutions, different type of projects across Europe and outside Europe, and all the web pages and all the links are in my presentation, and I'm here to answer additional questions if needed.
Thank you so much, Leonor. And I think we got an idea of what you're doing, and especially with the fund at the end, it was, again, another little solution for our audience to look and to think. And then afterwards, we'll have maybe a question from the audience for this specific fund. Mr. Rodolfo, I would like to ask you to the stage. If anybody needs, this one is going to be in Spanish, so if you need a translation, please take it.
Buenos días a todos. Yo voy a romper un poco el protocolo de las presentaciones en inglés. Les voy a hacer esta presentación en español. Muy complacido de venir desde Colombia, muy complacido por estar en este panel con mayoría de mujeres y poderles hablar de Findeter, que es un banco de desarrollo que funciona como el BEI, también para financiar, pero las regiones en Colombia. Disculpe la presentación. Okay. Ok, listo. Bueno. Findeter funciona como, es un banco de desarrollo que tiene un modelo que hemos implementado desde el 2010, que es planear, financiar y ejecutar. Para esto hemos desarrollado dos tipos de productos. Uno que es el de desarrollo territorial integrado, en donde hacemos asistencia técnica a las regiones, a las ciudades, y les ayudamos a estructurar proyectos. De la misma forma, también tenemos los productos financieros, donde a través de un mecanismo que nosotros llamamos el redescuento, al ser un banco de segundo piso, le prestamos a las regiones colombianas, a los departamentos, a los municipios a través de intermediarios financieros o bancos. También damos avales y garantías y de la misma forma administramos recursos públicos. ¿De dónde sale nuestro interés en la planeación? Comenzamos a mirar que en Colombia, al igual que ha pasado en el mundo y especialmente en Latinoamérica, el país se ha convertido se ha convertido, valga la redundancia, en un país de ciudades. En la década de los 50, el 40% de la población vivía en las ciudades. Hoy vive el 75% y rápidamente vamos a llegar a un 85%. Podemos ver casos como el de Bogotá, donde se ha hecho un crecimiento desordenado y donde tenemos problemas de movilidad. Lo que buscamos con estas metodologías de planeación es poder tener unas ciudades intermedias que van a tener un gran crecimiento en los próximos años, que lo hagan de una manera ordenada. ¿Cómo hicimos esto? En primer lugar, tenemos 3 plataformas. Arrancamos con una a partir de una alianza con el Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo. Aquí veo entre los asistentes a él y Juan, un socio inmejorable para este programa. El Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo tiene un programa que es el de ciudades emergentes y competitivas, en donde normalmente en los países latinoamericanos trabaja con 1 o 2 ciudades por país. Cuando se le planteó a Colombia escoger una ciudad de 4, lo que hizo Findeter es proponer que se hicieran las 4 ciudades. ¿Cómo? A partir del conocimiento del Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo, que nos diera asesoría y nos hiciera transferencia de conocimiento y tecnología, y Findeter pusiera el capital humano para hacer la parte operativa de este programa. Este programa tiene 4 pilares fundamentales, que es la sostenibilidad urbana, donde la movilidad es muy importante, la sostenibilidad ambiental, donde se analizan todos los riesgos de cambio climático, la sostenibilidad fiscal y gobernanza de la entidad territorial o del municipio, y la sostenibilidad económica y competitividad de la ciudad. A partir de este programa, donde se hace un diagnóstico, donde luego se hace un plan de acción, luego se pasa a tener la etapa de preinversión y luego sí la inversión en los proyectos, hicimos un programa con unos indicadores más sencillos para ciudades más pequeñas en Colombia, que nosotros lo llamamos ciudades emblemáticas. Y la tercera plataforma es la que hemos llamado los diamantes, donde ya no miramos la planificación de una ciudad, sino de una región. Cogimos toda la costa norte colombiana, acá en esta parte de la diapositiva, y 2 departamentos con alta productividad, como son los Santanderes, Santander del Sur y Santander del Norte, para que le diera volumen al estudio y pudiéramos buscar cuáles son las ventajas competitivas de la región, no solamente al interior de Colombia, sino también al exterior, para ver de qué manera se podía fomentar el turismo y las exportaciones al Caribe colombiano. Esto a partir de la unión de la tecnología con el conocimiento. Aquí tenemos algunos resultados de nuestros programas. Se han desembolsado 1.700 millones de dólares en las ciudades que han participado en estos programas. Hemos impactado a 11.5 millones de habitantes, de los cuales 1.6 millones son desplazados de la violencia en Colombia. Hay algo muy importante en este ejercicio de planeación y es podernos ganar la confianza de las comunidades. Esto lo hicimos de 2 formas. Una, llegando con industrias creativas al territorio. Trabajamos con escuelas sociodeportivas, donde hoy tenemos 19 escuelas y más de 4.000 niños atendidos en escuelas de fútbol y de basquetbol. También hemos trabajado con escuelas de música en un departamento colombiano que es Chocó, que es la zona selvática del Pacífico colombiano, donde los indicadores de pobreza son parecidos a los de Haití. Hemos trabajado con su cultura de la música, que es la parte derecha de la diapositiva, y hoy ya tenemos atendidos más de 250 niños y jóvenes en ese departamento con una escuela sinfónica. A partir de esto ganamos confianza en las comunidades, pero además es necesario socializar los programas de planeación que se vienen desarrollando. Esto lo hacemos con los ciudadanos, con los gremios, con el sector privado y con la academia. ¿Para qué? Para que cuando cambien los mandatarios municipales los gobernadores y los alcaldes, sea la comunidad que esté empoderada de estos ejercicios de planeación y le pueda pedir a sus mandatarios que hay que continuar con lo que ya se viene andando, que no podemos comenzar de cero cada vez que se inicia un nuevo gobierno. Entonces, por eso es muy importante en nuestros ejercicios de planeación la socialización.
This is a very important issue, what you're saying now. The issue of the civils and the citizens and continuing even if the mayors go after. So please continue, but I just wanted to focus on that point.
Sí, muchas gracias, Hila. Entonces, a partir de estos ejercicios, nosotros estamos apostando a que la planeación se logre hacer a 20 años con una visión de 50 años. Es algo que en Latinoamérica no es fácil, pero estamos cambiando la mentalidad de las personas. Aquí algunos resultados financieros de los desembolsos de Findeter, pero que creo que los podemos pasar rápidamente en aras del tiempo. Y la otra parte importante es la ejecución de proyectos. Findeter se ha convertido en la herramienta del gobierno nacional para ejecutar proyectos en las regiones a partir de esta confianza que ha ganado, principalmente en agua potable y saneamiento básico, infraestructura social, que es la parte de educación, bibliotecas, jardines infantiles y también vivienda de interés social para los más pobres. Quería llegar a esta última diapositiva para concluir. Nosotros en Findeter no hemos hecho esto solo. Nosotros buscamos alianzas desde el año 2010 con diferentes organizaciones internacionales, banca multilateral, bilateral, agencias y países. Hoy podemos decir con orgullo que tenemos 26 instituciones aliadas en el mundo. Algunas nos han prestado recursos, nos han prestado 716 millones de dólares, especialmente el Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo, KfW de Alemania y la Agencia Francesa de Desarrollo. Pero no solamente han sido créditos, también recursos no reembolsables. Hemos ejecutado en estos últimos 7 años 23.2 millones de dólares en cooperación internacional. De esos 23 millones de dólares, 5 millones de euros fueron de un LAIF con la Unión Europea a través de la Agencia Francesa de Desarrollo, el cual acabamos hace 2 meses de ejecutar. Y estamos aspirando en este momento a tener 35 millones de dólares más para ejecución hacia el futuro con el Reino Unido, con Francia, con Alemania y nuevamente con la Unión Europea. ¿Esto para qué? Para la etapa de post-conflicto, que vamos a tener 180 municipios en Colombia después de la firma de la paz trabajando en proyectos concretos en temas de preinversión. Y ya para concluir, todo el tema de ciudades inteligentes está enmarcado dentro de estos nuevos programas. Estamos buscando hacer centros de control y monitoreo en las principales ciudades del país que sean integrados, donde se tenga movilidad, donde se tengan riesgos ambientales y donde podamos tener también los temas de seguridad. Y ya la frase para concluir es que soñamos con una Colombia sostenible. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Rodolfo. Thank you. It was hard for me to follow you, but it was so interesting. So thank you so much for your presentation, and we'll hear later on more. But I do want to conclude with our last panelist, Ms. Elena Bourganskaia from IFC. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's really nice to be here. So I represent IFC, which stands for International Finance Corporation, which is part of the World Bank Group. And we're the part of the group which is focusing primarily on the private sector. In fact, we're the largest multilateral institution providing financing, technical assistance, and mobilization of third-party capital as well to the private sector in emerging markets. But we also work a lot with cities, providing financing, providing capacity building, and also project development support for cities. So we've been in the urban development space for quite a while now, and we've learned a few things. And one of the things that we've learned is that typically the answer to the question of, how do cities resolve their financing challenges or their financial issues, it's rarely about financing solutions. So you've heard about different financing products and offerings from all of the panelists, and we have a bunch of them as well. But typically, it's not about financing solutions. They're very important, they're very relevant. There are some very important issues in different countries, in different cities, but typically it's not about that. What is needed to succeed for a city that wants to solve its financial issues, I would say there are three buckets of things. It's about empowerment, it's about capacity, and it's about accountability. Empowerment meaning that cities need to have fiscal autonomy to actually manage their finances, and it may be surprising to some of you, but there are a number of countries in the world where cities are not allowed to borrow, for example. And it's very hard to actually solve their issues if they can't attract outside financing. It's about decision-making authority and clear understanding of intergovernmental frameworks, relationships between cities and other tiers of government. Then resources and capacity. It's about having a vision, it's about having a plan to implement that vision, and it's about creditworthiness. And creditworthiness is very, very important, because if the city is not creditworthy, it can only attract either transfers from other levels of government or donor financing, right? Grants and other types of donor finances. It cannot raise debt, it cannot, whether it's loans or bonds, and it cannot really attract private investment, whether through PPPs or otherwise. And we all know that, to solve all the issues that the cities have more and more with infrastructure, with services, they have to be able to raise more financing. And if you look in the emerging markets, out of 500 largest cities in emerging markets, there's only a very small percentage of cities which are creditworthy. And this is a real challenge, and this is a real issue. And we're working ourselves and with many of our partners to try and solve that. And I think, to me, that's one of the key things, that if we're able to expand the universe of cities which are deemed creditworthy, that could help solve all kinds of issues. And then the third category is accountability. And this is about transparency, this is about accountability to other levels of government, but most importantly, and some of my colleagues alluded to it as well in their presentations, it's about accountability to the own citizens of the cities. It's about citizen participation, consultation, continuity of community involvement when the mayors change or governments change or whatever happens in the city. And I'll leave you with just one example of the city that we've been working with for many years now. Almost 10 years we've been working with the city of Izmir in Turkey, which is the third largest city in the country. And because of its leadership, the strength of it, because of the strength of its financial management, the city has really been able to transform itself and to focus on its key developmental priorities, which are around mobility and environmental services, water and waste. And the city has been able to attract over $500 million of financing just from us, right? And there are other financial partners that the city has. So the message here is that I hope that we have many more examples like this, and we're working with a number of other cities around the world in all regions of the world to replicate the example that we have, the successful example of Izmir. And we're always looking for also partners to work together to solve this challenge. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much, Elena. You actually finished before time, but I would love if you could put the slide that Elena made, just the one before. Can you go back for just 1 second to the slides of Elena? Or is it too hard? What you just put on, go back to the slide with the three. What do we need to succeed? Before Izmir, exactly. I think in a way, if we have this slide in mind for all of us, thank you so much for wrapping the issue together, putting that, and each city that is here or each partner that is here should look how he's putting all these ingredients together in order to succeed. And this brings me to the first question. You can leave it, otherwise you need anything else, but this leads me to the first question to Mr. Arvind Satayam. How would you, okay, you've got a big challenge now. You've got a big challenge. Not about the party, but about the 1 billion. I mean, two issues. Yeah, a party and a, that's an opportunity? Okay. So how would you refer to the people that, or to the partners that would approach you? Would it be on basis of first come, first go? Or would it be on the ROI opportunities?
Absolutely.
Because, you know, I'm sure some people are just waiting for this panel to end and to approach you.
Sounds good. Can you hear me? Okay. So, Elena, I think you did a great job of summarizing what is needed, because this is the criteria that we would look at as well. Obviously, we'd apply it to the projects. So the first thing that I would say is the types of projects that we'd be focused on. If these are projects which are, there's going to be a combination. There's going to be some that are public-private partnerships that are large. So you might have a $20 million PPP that's been set up where you need to roll out a common network, you need to do lighting, you need to do multiple services. On the flip side, you might also have municipalities that just want to get started. And there needs to be some initial capital to get that started. So I would say it's a combination of projects, from smaller ones to larger ones, in areas which don't have the political risk and the other risks that you've laid out, but also ones where you have the financial credibility and the financial wherewithal, so you'd finance that.
Do you need the material that your partner wants to give you? Or you don't need it?
I don't need the material, but
Okay.
what we do have here is some material that we can give you at the end of the session, and it's also in our booth that actually tells you the criteria that we would use. Last thing that I want to leave you with is, it's not just for municipalities, it's for companies that are selling solutions into municipalities.
Okay.
So if you have any of these projects that you believe need this criteria, and also in areas where the municipality is putting some money on the table, there is accountability. So it's not just us and our partners financing the whole thing. If you have a project where the municipality is putting some funding down, and it's a project where you can scale, then it's a good criteria.
Great. So before we hand the mic to the audience, I do want to ask you, Leonor, if you could give us an example that maybe our audience can share of like a game changer for a city that approached to you guys and, you know, helped them so much that, just like the Izmir result or solution that helped that specific city, because you're focusing more in Europe on financing their smart city.
Well, is it working? Okay. I would like to share the example of Belfius. Belfius is a bank in Belgium, and is really the bank that is very well placed to work with municipalities. They have been financing municipalities since many years, and we don't have the capacity to access to these all small municipalities. So what we did with them is to define the criteria to label a city as smart, but not to focus only on smart investments, but also to be able to finance, as I have said, sustainable investments, because they have to go together. So with Belfius, we have provided them a credit line that was very attractive for them to provide cheaper financing to cities that are investing in smart investments. Because the problem here is that why should I invest also in smart investments? Does it cost the same or not? I mean, also the cities and the regions are willing to get the best of an interest when they work with a bank. So what we have done with them is to say, okay, when you are labeled as a smart, through Belfius, you get a better interest rate. It's not us doing that, it's Belfius, than when you are financing a sustainable investment. So this also is a bit of a carrot for a city, doing an effort to invest a bit more, but in long term, it makes sense for them. And it's also part of this facility that they have created, and I think is very, very attractive to provide cheaper investments also for those that are really contributing to smart technology or climate resilience. So it's also to promote from our side, financial institutions, those investments that are really contributing to what we want to approach, which is a smart city. So I have put a link there to a video, and you have several municipalities explaining you why it was so good and so easy in the end to work through Belfius and with the EIB in this smart city project.
Thank you so much. And from this, I'd like to take it to the audience. There are questions that were asked. Can you pass me the questions? Or even later on, we can pass the mic. Thank you so much. The first question that was, an anonymous. Yeah, I need your help because it just went and I don't want to. Can you come and, the questions went away. Can you put them back on? Questions. Okay, you know, when we're smart, always our vehicles help us. Lusa asked, if we want really to empower citizens, we have to include their voice in the finance process. How can you contribute to this empowerment? Does anyone want to refer to the, if we want to really to empower the citizens, how do we include them in that decision process?
So I would say, can you hear me? I would say a couple of things. First of all, in most municipalities, any kind of big financing decision has to be approved by municipal council, which consists of representatives of the citizens, right? So every annual budget has to be approved by the same council. Depending on the country, sometimes, you know, loans or any sort of financing above certain thresholds has to be approved, right? So assuming that the council is actually representative of the citizens of the city, that's one mechanism. Another mechanism that we are seeing in some of the countries, so for example, we are working in Argentina with some municipalities and some provinces. And in one of the provinces that we're working with, they have this program of paving smaller streets in smaller towns. And we are financing part of that program. The interesting bit is that the way the program is set up is that the streets that are chosen, they're chosen because the residents on those streets are willing to co-finance part of the investment.
The
and
citizens
so,
are
yeah,
part of this
part of this process. And so it's a very active selection process.
Please,
that.
Can you refer which city was that?
This is in Santa Fe. It's the province of Santa Fe, and then there are a bunch of
How many residents
cities.
are there?
Oh, it's thousands. I mean, it depends on each community. But we're talking
about that specific community that is, because you know, in our municipality, always people tell me, "Oh, this is the municipality's obligation. We don't want to, you know, be partner on financing it." How did you take that?
It wasn't us, so I'm not taking a credit for inventing this. So this is the local government that came up with that
a real smart solution.
with that solution. Yeah.
Wow, that blows the, yeah.
Maybe if I can just build on top of that, I think it's, you know, the Kickstarter type of concept where if you have a great idea and there's support, you're not just waiting for others to act on it, you can do it. You know, but the other thing we look at is it's not just about building projects which are profitable. It's about building projects that are profitable, but more importantly, add value to citizens. And today with technology, you get real-time feedback from citizens as to whether they're using it or not, right? So a lot of cities have smart city strategy and big data strategy with citizen inclusion, right? So they have to take that feedback in. So that's a key part of our qualification criteria for which cities we engage in, because we know those projects to be sustainable and they're going to last between different election cycles as well.
So, here. There you go, just your remark. Can somebody help me with this?
En Colombia se está haciendo un ejercicio importante y es la gestión del suelo urbano. Esto está centralizado. Hay una institución del gobierno nacional que es la que establece los valores del suelo urbano y cómo se puede generar renta a partir del suelo y de las viviendas. Estamos buscando descentralizarlo en los municipios. En este momento se está trabajando en Barranquilla para que Barranquilla gestione el valor de su suelo urbano y así pueda manejar las rentas que se dan directamente por este mecanismo.
Well, just to finish with, I mean, this participated budget is quite common in Europe. We see it in many cities. In Poland, for example, part of the budget through the city districts is being voted. So they decide what are the priorities to be implemented in their districts.
I want to ask, they vote, but do they also put their money?
No, they don't put the money. Well, they put the money through the taxes, of course. But once the money is there, they vote priorities and they make proposals.
So maybe I misunderstood, but before they are just voting, your example is vote. They're also putting money.
No, in this case, we don't. I mean, they put the money. Of course, the money comes from the taxes, which is already a lot.
Yeah, of course, but this is extra money, and this is why it's such an interesting, smart solution. But still, of course, voting is very important, and it makes them part of it. But the extra money on top of the taxes is something new that is part of crowdfunding, Kickstarter, that we can look at it. Since we're talking smart cities, smart solutions, and always the digital devices go away, but I did read a question, thank you, that I wanted to refer to. Here it is. Izhar asked a question which I'm very interested, because we always talk about success. We never talk about failures, and I do think we can learn from failures. So there's a question here: Has there been any smart city projects that failed and were financed extremely? Why did it fail? Can we learn from failures? Do you have any example in your mind of big failures that the audience and all of us can learn? Because I just learned a beautiful new example. Is there a failure?
I won't mention any names, of course, but I mean, I wouldn't call it failure, but there are many delays. I mean, expectations are there, but as you have mentioned already, I mean, there is this credit-worthy issue, and many municipalities with the crisis, at least in Europe, had to postpone the investments, had to cut down the budget. And of course, I mean, this is not a failure, but this is a bit of reorganizing the programs, because the crisis came, it has impacted very hardly, at least in Europe. So delays, we see many. I wouldn't call this a failure, but it's true that is there, I mean.
So delays are sometimes, but we do look maybe from the audience, sometimes there are failures. Failures happen, and we can learn from them. So if you have any examples of failures or maybe of the priorities. Sometimes you prioritize something, and then after 2 or 3 years you understand that it's not the top priority and you should have changed something. So again, maybe you wouldn't refer to it as a failure, but if you take the decision later on, you'll change it. And that brings us to conclude and to wrap up this. I think when we're talking smart cities, we have to know, again, how to listen to our residents. And when we're listening to them, they will prioritize sometimes better for us. Now, we are city makers or civil servants. We always think we know the best. You guys are not part. I work for the Municipality of Tel Aviv. You guys always help municipalities. But, you know, sometimes civil servants think we know the best. We're the managers of the city. We know the priorities. We know where to put the money. So I do call upon ourselves for 3 things. First of all, to listen to our residents, because they always know better. Second, to reach out for entrepreneurs and for collaboration with stakeholders like you guys here, because you're out there, you're the private sector, you always know a little bit better than ours. Always the public sector is just 1 step behind. So we need to use and to know how to reach out to your partnerships as public-private partnerships. And the last thing, people, please enjoy. It's all about passion. It's all about partying. It's all about having fun. Cities are the next thing. If anybody, who hasn't been to Tel Aviv yet? All of you that are not raising your hand, put it up and come on September. We have the biggest Innovation Smart City event. I think you're going to see how a city parties. So this is part of enjoying our city. Thank you so much for being with us, and hope to see you somewhere in Tel Aviv. Thank you.